everyone, welcome to my channel, or welcome back. I'm so glad that you're here. My name is Jen, if you don't already know, and I'm a homeschool mom of 6. We're actually getting ready to go into our 10th year of homeschooling. How has it been 10 years? I feel like I feel like this whole year has been me just in awe of time going by. I'm saying that about everything. Like, we had our wedding anniversary and I'm like, how has it been this long? And then with each of my kids' birthdays, I'm like, how am I the mom of this how many years old kid? Like, everything just feels, life is just zooming by. But yes, so we're going into our 10th year of homeschooling. So I have been doing this for quite a while. My oldest is 19 and there's my phone going off. My youngest is actually turning 7 in a couple of weeks. And so, you know, we've done all the grades all the way up to high school. Now, I'm not saying I have it all figured out, but I have been doing this long enough to still be in it, but also at the same time be on the other side of it, if that makes sense, because I do have older kids, already kind of seeing the benefits, just seeing the outcome, the after of homeschooling. And I wanted to just come on here and hopefully encourage you. I wanted to do this video, but I don't. For starters, I never want anyone to feel like I'm singling them out. This is not a like bashing on, you know, if you send your kids to school. And I've said this numerous times because we didn't start off homeschooling. So a few of my kids did go to school, like to a traditional school before we pulled them out. I'm not even saying that everybody has to homeschool necessarily. This is more just if you're on the fence, if this is something that you've thought about, that you've considered, that you've kind of gone back and forth about and just kind of can't seem to make the decision. I guess I'm making a case for homeschooling, but I wanted to specifically focus on the things that are not necessarily the academic portion, because there's so many benefits, there are so many positives and so many reasons to give for homeschooling. But I wanted to specifically focus on the non-academic part of it, because yes, that is a big chunk of it. And there's a lot to be said with what can be accomplished academically through homeschooling. I wanted to talk about all the other things and hopefully just give you a realistic look. Now, of course, it's going to be different for everybody because everybody's situation is different, and family and, you know, all of that. But just because I'm somebody I'm still in it, and yet, you know, I have a kid who has already graduated. I have 2 high schoolers. My second oldest, she will be doing grade 12 next year. So we're very close to having another graduate soon. So I feel like I can give a fairly good perspective as somebody who has been doing it for as long as I have. Maybe one of these reasons will kind of help you in making your decision. The first thing I would say that is a benefit and a plus to homeschooling is what it does for fostering relationships between siblings and between you and your children. Now, I know that I hear from a lot of parents, you know, that don't homeschool. I hear from a lot of parents when they know that I do. Usually one of the first things they say is like, I don't know if I could spend that much time around my kids. I don't know if that's gonna work, the 24/7 thing. They really do say that to me. And I guess my answer to that is that, you know, it is an adjustment. Like, it is an adjustment to have your kids with you all the time. For the most part, you're expecting that you're gonna, you know, maybe if even that, stay with your kids until they start traditional school, 4, 5, 6 years old, and then they're going to be gone for part of the day, and you're going to have, you know, X amount of hours to yourself. That's time I can use to clean or run errands or prepare dinner, like whatever it is. Like, I understand that. But I also think that there's just this misinformation, I guess, of what it's like to be home with your kids all the time. And I think it automatically is looked at as a bad thing. And listen, it has its challenges. I mean, if you were if you were with anybody all the time, day and night, there's going to be times where you're going to run into issues and conflicts for sure. And it's no different. Like, just because I homeschool my kids, and I think people think like, oh, you made this choice, like you chose you chose this life. Yes, I did. There is definitely refining that gets done, because another thing is kind of, I think it kind of goes hand in hand when people talk about like, oh, you must be so patient. No. I don't think I'm necessarily any more patient than the next person, but it's like that whole situation where if you want more of something, if you want to be a certain kind of person, I feel like there's no better way to become that person than being in a situation or faced with circumstance where you have to exhibit that thing, that quality. So it's easy to say I'm a patient person until I'm in a situation where my patience is tested. And that's where you have to sort of either make that a moment that is going to set you off, or be a teaching moment where you choose time and time again how you're going to respond and how you're going to act. And I don't always do this well. I don't always do it perfectly. It is, you know, it's like any other attribute, any other thing where you're trying to better yourself. It's an ongoing process that I will be working on for the rest of my life. But having your kids at home with you, having all these personalities, working through things together, going through things together, can be such a wonderful character building, refining for both you and your kids. I would say more so than any other situation. I think the fact that you are not just different personalities, but different age ranges, being able to work out, you know, different stages of life, people's schedules, being mindful and respectful that if you have a little one and they're napping and the other kids need to respect that, and maybe that has to be their quiet time, or they can't go in that room, or that's just one example. But I think there's just a lot more to say about there being more real life situations that they are experiencing, more so than sitting in a classroom with kids that are exactly their age. You know, just them being able to interact with adults as well as kids younger than them and kids older than them. And if you don't have, like, maybe you just have one child, but again, that same thing goes for you and for them, because I think sometimes it might be easier to just be like, oh, just easy to avoid certain circumstances or certain situations when we are apart, and then we just don't talk about it or we just don't deal with it. Doesn't mean it goes away, you know? For sure, when you are in closed quarters in a home, especially as the parent, like you're the parent, but you're also / the teacher, that's a whole other dynamic. I just feel like if you allow it to, if you go into it with the mindset of like how positive this can be on the family, I think it can just do so much for your relationship, and definitely grow the relationship you have with your kids and the relationships that they have with you, and with each other. And honestly, I have seen that through the years. It's not that my kids don't fight. It's not that they don't, you know, they don't always get along. Being there and seeing them work it out, and also being the one who's there to help them work things out, has been invaluable. Another thing which kind of goes along with that is the fact that you do have those extra hours to pour into your kids. The fact that I get to be the main, I mean, obviously aside from my husband, but in the homeschooling sense, because I'm the main person who's homeschooling my kids, the fact that I get to be the main influence in their life is just so important to both my husband and I, that we are the main influence in our kids' lives. It's not that they're sheltered. It's not that they're not exposed to anything. It's not about that. But you know, just like if they are sitting in school, in a public school for 8 hours a day, and the friends that they're hanging around with and whatever the teachers are teaching, that is going to be, I mean, whether we like it or not, or we want to admit it or not, that is going to be the main influence in their life and how they look at things and how they think, their view of the world. It's kind of like the company that you keep. You slowly start to adopt the same behaviors. And so and that's one of the things that was so important to to us, that we just didn't want to feel like we were getting the leftover hours with our kids at the end of the day when they're already tired and kind of just over it, you know, and not at their best. I wanted to make sure that we had as many hours with them as possible for that very reason, so that, you know, we could utilize how their hours were spent learning, and that they were learning the things that we wanted them to learn. Now, again, not necessarily like, yes, it's all, I guess, under the sphere of academics, but aside from math and science and English and all those things, us being able to pour into them our values, the things that we want them to think about and learn about and focus, and having a biblical worldview on things. And also, that being said, not learning things we don't want them to learn, not being exposed and taught things that we don't agree with, even things that are maybe not age appropriate, that we as parents get to kind of call the shots with our own kids, that we are the ones deciding how they learn about certain things, when they learn about certain things. Also, the fact that they were learning those things from us. That's the other thing, is that, you know, a lot of these things they are not learning from somebody outside the home who has very different values than we do. What I have found is that, yes, we are their parents, and you're their parent no matter what, but in having that kind of relationship with them, I just feel like the time that we have had has opened up so much more in terms of like conversations with them, because, you know, sometimes kids, like teenagers, whatever, like they're not always feeling comfortable to just come and just blurt something out or just have a question. They may just feel awkward about it, but there's so many opportunities in our day to approach subjects and to talk about things that the conversations we have, I don't know if the extent of them would have taken place. My battery died. What else is new? Anyway, I don't know where it cut off, but I was basically just saying that having all those extra hours where we're able to explore different topics and talk about different issues, it fosters more of those conversations and gives me an opportunity, I don't know if I want to use the word excuse, but to bring that up, because it's, you know, it's sort of within the umbrella of it being a school setting, you know, bringing certain things up, and also for my kids to bring things up and to ask questions, and we've had fantastic conversations. And so it really is just all these elements that combined have added so much to us having a deeper connection with each other, which again is something that is just so important to my husband and I. Another thing that I think is fantastic about having your kids at home, and I kind of mentioned it, is the fact that, yes, they are learning at home, you know, they are homeschooling, and that involves doing all the typical subjects for sure, but at the same time, it is in this like real life setting. We have a schedule that we keep with, but it is within, you know, our home. And as we're doing school, though, life is still happening and life is going on. So it's not as, I guess, strict as being like in a classroom in a building at school. You're still dealing with life and the people that you're living with and whatever's happening at the time, even incorporating things throughout the day, like doing chores and having that opportunity even just to teach my kids certain tasks around the house, cooking, baking, laundry, you know, like life skills that they are going to use and need as they get older. Even just taking trips or running errands and learning about money and talking to people, interacting with people outside the house or with people who are serving them somehow. There's just something beautiful about learning in a more, I don't know, organic way, where again, there's the book work and there's the curriculum and all that kind of stuff, but there's all that other stuff. And because there's time for that. That's the other thing, is as opposed to trying to find the time, there is time for that, to kind of just naturally throw that in within our schedule. And then again, along with that, there's also just the time for them to explore their interests and spend more time doing things that interest them and figuring out what that even is. Because, you know, I mean, we all, you know, I went to a school, like I went to a public school. We all know that it's scheduled and you're just going from class to class pretty much, and you're doing whatever you're supposed to be doing at the time. And then a lot of times you come home and you have homework and it starts all over the next day. And with homeschooling, it's very different because you're not in a class of 30 people. And so as much as they are doing a full day worth of work, it does not take them a full day. And so they can take a lot more breaks. They finish their work a lot more quickly because they're not waiting on other students, or they can work at their own pace. That really does allow for them to be able to explore other interests and do different things. So, you know, my kids have done all kinds of things, from music to baking. Even if they just want to, you know, spend more time drawing or on art. Some of them, you know, I have kids that love to work on writing short stories, things like that. That would be the kind of thing that would be hard for them to fit in after a full day of school and then homework at the end of the night. Basically, once they're done their day of assigned school, the rest of it's free time, and they don't really have homework. Not really. I mean, unless they want to get ahead on something or, you know, whatever, but it's not like assigned. They don't have assigned homework. So there's just more of this freedom because they're actually getting more done in less time. Then they're freeing up the rest of their day so that they can explore whatever they're passionate about, work on things that maybe they want to get better at. It might be something that they're considering going into, and they kind of get to just dabble and try things out. And I just love that they get to do that. And also, there's just also the fact that they just get to be kids. Like, yes, they do seat work and they do workbooks and they work on the computer. Like, they do all those things. But if we want to take a break, if we want to go out, if we want to take a walk, if we want to play outside, if we want to go to the park, if we want, you know, whatever it is, like, we can do that. And there's that flexibility in being able to do that. And they don't have to just be like sitting there. And also they can move around. A lot of times they're on the couch or they're out on the back deck, or sometimes they're just sitting in their bed, whatever it is. It might seem like small things, but especially if you have a kid that, like, it's hard for them to sit still. I find that just like the environment can be, it's just more relaxed of an environment, and you can kind of cater to those things without them imposing on like what needs to be accomplished and what needs to be done. Those are just, honestly, that's just like the tip of the iceberg. It's the overall basic pouring into your kids and having that time. Again, it's all on how you look at it. I know for some parents, it's like, I don't know what I would do with all that time, and I don't know if I want all that time. But coming from someone like me, who has a 19-year-old and still can't believe how I got here, I know it's such a typical thing to hear and to say, that time goes by so fast. And you realize, here I am having homeschooled my kids, and it's not that I feel like I didn't have enough time, but I feel like I could have used more. So that's all I'm saying. There's just so much that you can pour into your kids as they're growing up. And it's not that you stop being a parent to them just because they hit a certain age. My son still lives with us, and yes, his day and his life and his schedule looks very different now because he's an adult, but he still very much needs us, you know, and he still comes to us and asks for advice and talks to us about stuff. I can see the fruits of being able to invest that time in him when he was younger. Even just the fact that, you know, they don't have to wait until like the end of the day to talk about something with us, because I'm there all the time. They come to me throughout the day, even if it's just to be like, look at what I did, or look how well I did on this, or look at this thing that I worked on. And just even those things that I think sometimes we take for granted, maybe. I'm just so thankful that I've been there for that whole process. It's just invaluable. I mean, it just is. And yes, there's hard days. So I'm not trying to just like sugarcoat everything and make it sound like everything is always 100% the best. There are lots of times, and I've talked about this in videos about, you know, having like homeschool mom slump, and a lot of times I need to get away. Just, you know, it's not like I never need to be alone or want to be alone. Same thing with my kids. Like, I'm sure they get sick of me talking like all the time. Like, all they hear is me talking. When we need time, we just kind of go off into our own little corners. You do what you got to do. But like, overall, I've just seen the benefits of this time, not even including the academic portion of homeschooling. It really is like what it adds to our relationship with each other, our family dynamic, being able to work through things together, being able to celebrate wins together, being able to go through hard times together, me being available to them all the time for the good things, the bad things throughout their day, I just think has done so much for strengthening my relationship with them and the openness that they feel with me. And so, yeah, I just want to encourage you, again, this is not to alienate anybody who homeschooling is just not even on your radar. But if it is something that you've considered, if it is something that you're just maybe just scared because it's a new thing, I'm telling you, if you really go into it wholeheartedly, give yourself to the process, focus on the relationship part of it, because honestly, the academic part, like, it's not going to be successful if you don't work on the relationship part of it anyway. Kind of just like talking about motherhood. Motherhood has ups and downs, goods and bads, like all the things. It's the hardest, it's one of the hardest things I've ever done is being a mom. Overall, it's the most wonderful thing I've ever done. And I did it 6 times. I'm a mom 6 times over. So when I just think homeschool, like, I don't think of the bad times and the struggles and the hardships. I just overall, I just think, wow, I'm so glad that I took a leap of faith and trusted God with all of it. Honestly, I don't even take credit for any of this. Every single day, it is me asking God for all the things that I need to get through that day, and failing a lot, and then just trying again the next day. And that's really all you can do, and just trust in Him, you know, that He is going to take something like that and make it something beautiful. On that note, I hope this was encouraging for you. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I would love for you to subscribe if you're new. It is currently about to thunderstorm outside, so I feel like my face is looking kind of weird and shadowy, but that's why. There's literal, can you hear that? Thunder, the thunder rolls. But yeah, I would love if you could subscribe to my channel for more mom/homeschool content. You can also follow me on Instagram. It's Modern Mom for Life there. I hope you're all doing fantastic, and I will see you in my next video.